Welcome to the International Teacher Podcast with your host, Matt the Family Guy, Kent the Cat Guy, and me, Greg the Single Guy. We are recording episodes from around the globe to tell you about the best kept secret in education. That's right, it's teaching overseas. We're glad to have you join us. All right, so this is Greg, the Single Guy, reporting from the International Teacher Podcast. And Matt is not here. He's probably reading stories to his kids tonight. And Kent, he's getting a little tired because it's the end of the year, and I know he's been working hard. So I'm going to entertain a little bit here. And I have invited the two ladies, the two founders of the Making the Grade podcast here. And I would like to welcome from the U.S., we'll hear more about them, but Georgia and Christine, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, we're so excited to be here.
Before we hear a little bit about your teaching and your journey and everything, where are you physically right now? Georgia, where are you right now?
Oh, I'm actually currently in Las Vegas, Nevada, which I feel like people, when they're like, oh, she's in Vegas, they're going to get the wrong idea about me. I actually have no interest in casinos or gambling, but I'm on a cross-country road trip, and I have a friend who lives here, and so my fiance and I made a pit stop, and we're actually having a good time. It's nice. We went to the pool and, did the whole walk in the strip thing, got some dinner. So that's where I'm at right now.
Awesome.
But I'm from Boston. I'm from Boston.
In Boston, okay. And Christine?
Yeah, I'm much less excited. Just my home office and around the Boston area.
Oh, that's exciting. I love Boston. I tell you what, I forgot the name of there was a restaurant that serves burgers, and it's over by all the colleges. I don't know, along the subway, and there's a theater there, but there's this burger place that serves burgers with like macaroni and cheese on them and stuff, which is crazy. It's like the burger place.
Yeah, Boston Burger Company.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it couldn't have been easier. Okay, so that I remember that very well, and I tell all of our listeners, anybody that's out there, you have to go to Boston Burger. It is amazing, right?
They have it. Yeah, the one you're talking about might be, I think it's called the Chicken Sink Burger, and it just has like everything on it, like mac and cheese and like chicken fingers and all this stuff on the burger. And they have a peanut butter and jelly one.
On a burger.
Yeah.
It's like the Elvis one, yeah.
Oh,
but
my God.
if you do come to the Boston area, Georgia and I can guide you. We are burger connoisseurs, and we have a lot of favorite spots.
I love it. Well, that's a cool thing about having you both on is that I know you both love to travel, and you are not international teachers, but I have you on this podcast. I'm sharing this with you because I was a guest on your podcast to sort of explain what we do as a profession, but it links directly with both of you. And I would like to hear a little bit from each of you about your podcast and your goals and what you're doing now. But let's start with a little bit of a journey, like a shortened journey like you do on your podcast. Christine, do you want to start us off and tell us a little journey, how you got to where you are today?
Sure. And Greg, you would be so proud. I prepped nothing for today. This is very
really?
Me. Yeah.
I love it. Off the cuff.
On the
Go
fly.
for it.
Yeah. So I've been a special ed teacher for about a decade. I still consider myself very much a special ed teacher, even though I'm in a different space now. And about a decade in, I had my first baby and the world shut down. So it was just kind of a good time to take some time out of the classroom. I knew I wanted to take an extended leave instead of just the 8 weeks of maternity leave that I got. So to not be as, I guess, obtrusive to the students, having them have two different teachers throughout the year. With that in mind, I took a year-long leave of absence. Pandemic hits like 4 months in. And then I just had some time to pause and think, okay, am I going back to this position? If not, what does that look like for me? And that really lit a fire under me to be like, what am I going to do? I need to figure this out. Teaching is part of my identity. It's, how I identify, I feel. So I started looking into all these other things that I could do with my special ed background. And I think that's probably from side hustles as a teacher. We all often do have to do other things. So I think Georgia and I probably just got used to that. I'm sure others can relate. I'm sure you can relate too. So yeah, I kind of got used to the side gig industry, and I think the pandemic kind of opened up new opportunities for teachers. So I was able to do some work virtually. I currently work with undergraduate and graduate students in all areas of teacher training. So yeah, that's kind of sums it up. And I don't normally sound like this. I have very bad allergies right now. Just wanted to put that out there.
You sound great. Well said,
But
too.
yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up.
Yeah,
All right. And Georgia?
for sure. So similar to Christine, I also was in the classroom for about 10 years. Not special ed. I taught preschool, pre-K in a public setting. I would say about 5 years in, although I still was loving it, I started to realize I had all these other passions and interests that I wanted to explore, and kind of led me down the journey of like, what does entrepreneurship look like? What does it look like to start a business? What other skills do I have that I could use both in the classroom and outside of the classroom if I ever wanted to, work for myself and not be in the classroom? That kind of little nudge inside of me kept getting stronger and stronger, and it led me to take a year of career exploration where I wasn't in the classroom, did a little bit of traveling, and kind of had a chance to step back and be like, okay, do I want to keep working with kids? Do I want to be in a classroom? Do I want to work in education in a different way? Do I want to use all these other skills that I have and completely step out of education? What do I want to do? And similar to Christine's journey, that year of sort of stepping back also happened to be the year of the pandemic starting. It was just, yeah, a real time of reflection and stepping back and figuring things out. And ultimately, I made the choice to go back to the classroom and teach virtually and see what that was all about, which I actually liked. A kind of unpopular opinion. I liked teaching online. The preschoolers liked it too. I think little kids just thrived in that setting almost for a little while until it was like, all right, we got to get back in person. But it was a unique situation where I was able to teach online and also still be kind of exploring my other passions and interests. I went back for the full year, and I think 1 year after that, decided I'm going to leave. I still love kids, love education, but it's time for me to kind of explore all these other things I've been working on. And now I am so grateful that we have the Making a Grade podcast, because it's kind of like my still insert in education still, and empowering teachers and helping teachers. But more full time, I'm able to focus on my creative design business, where I build websites and create content for small businesses and for teachers. And, I sometimes miss it. I miss being with kids all the time, but I know that for right now, this is right for me, and who knows what the future holds, but that's where I'm at right now.
Well, Georgia, you know that I told you you're going to be going back into teaching, but it's going to be international. So I
Yeah.
know I'm not worried about you. And this is for both of you. It sounds like there's a rash of people that are just burned out from teaching. There's people that have been teaching for 2 years. They realize it's not for them. It's that 3-year burnout, the 5-year burnout. Both of you had 10 years at least of teaching. So you are definitely in the field long enough that you're not newbies. We respect people when they're in for 10 years of teaching, right? You know that. You look at somebody that's in for 5 years and you're like, oh, they're so cute. They're so innocent, right? Even if they're amazing teachers. But it sounds like, and you can both comment on this, it sounds like both you avoided the burnout to evaluate really what it is. Am I getting the right feeling for you?
It's hard to think back to that time. I don't know, Georgia, what do you, like when we've been reminiscing on this a lot in the
Yeah.
creation of our podcast, and we were like, I forgot about that. Like I think we blocked some stuff out, honestly.
Yeah. I'll say, like, I feel like I was like born to be a teacher. Like I loved it. Like those first few years, like, yeah, they were hard, and you'd be exhausted, but more than anything, I was just lit up by it and just so excited to have my own classroom. And so anything that was really hard about it was just kind of canceled out by being like, I love my job and I'm so grateful to have it. And but I think it was almost like a slow burnout, with so many factors.
With the perfect timing of COVID, maybe, huh? Like
Yeah,
COVID hit and we
honestly.
all
Yeah,
had to figure out, am I doing the right thing? Right?
Yes.
right.
It was
I
like a big
think,
pause,
yeah,
but
yep. I think that we're always changing and evolving, and some people are meant to do the same thing forever and some aren't. Both are totally fine. And I think slowly something in me was telling me, okay, like there might be other things as you're evolving that are going to align better with these new versions of you and your values and what's important to you. Like for instance, traveling in a camper van, which is what I'm doing right now, doesn't align very well with being in a classroom. You can't really do both. So different versions of you require different things, and I think that combined with a lot of issues that came up with COVID and what teachers had to go through, like those two things combined just
Right.
made me reach that point maybe later than some people do. But it was like finally, you know, couldn't hold back anymore. I was like, okay, like I need to make some changes.
I can't remember ever thinking that way about COVID because for me, I had a much different experience. We don't talk a lot about COVID on the show, but in a nutshell, I never had a chance to stop teaching because we went from the very day we had a locust swarm on a Wednesday, and then on a Tuesday, and on a Thursday we sent the kids home with Chromebooks, notebooks, and all that stuff, and we were online the next Sunday. So it was crazy, and we just continued in different versions of that for the next year. For me specifically, it was a transition that was different, but I didn't have that time to think to myself, is teaching really what I want to do? Because we never stopped.
how was that though? Transitioning like with that group that you had. How was it? What was that like?
The group of what?
The students that you had at that time. Was it a
Oh,
seamless transition or tough?
eh, wow, that's a tough question because we went from completely online and then we had a summer off, which was lockdown, and then we had the school year started and we did it remotely, and then we phased in. So the group of kids we all knew from beforehand, right? Except for the preschool kids. And like you were saying, Georgia, the preschoolers and the pre-kinders and the kinders, I love them online,
Yeah,
but
I
only if the
know.
parents are supporting, right? Even first and
Right.
second grade.
True.
The second graders are the first grade level that the kids are really starting to take over. But that first, it was all about parents or the maid after the parents set it up, right? The maid is sitting there and the kids are like, hi, seeing you was like seeing,
Oh my
going over
gosh.
for a play date almost, right?
Yeah. And showing off their house. Like, this is my house. And like, like, look at, I'm in my underwear. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like their time to shine.
Right. It's like today, even in class, I was teaching kindergarten. I was about just like 2 minutes of instruction before they go off and play with their Legos and build something with Kiva blocks. I'm right about to say, okay, everybody make your choice. And I have a little kid that raises her hand. She goes, my brother's birthday is tomorrow. It's just, they just want to talk about themselves, whether it's remotely or not. All they care about, it's a me stage. I care about
Oh,
me. I
yeah.
want to share the whole world. Sidebar here, but I called my mother for Mother's Day. Yes, I did. And she started telling me stories about how mom and dad would be with little Greg at like 3 to 5 to 7, and how I would go up to other tables and just start saying what my parents had just told me, like what we're going to do. And then I'd walk up to a table and say, my parents are fighting, just as a little
Yeah,
3-year-old.
anything that's going
Oh
on.
my God.
I
I,
have a 3-year-old right now, so yeah,
You have a little
it's
Greg?
everything. Yeah, he's so social too. Anything that's in his mind comes out, and it's the big why. And we were driving down the street like a week ago. He's like, "Mama, what's under the road?" I was like, "Pipes, I think, buddy." Or, "Where did the pipes go?" And then, "Why did they come out? Do they come from our house?" I'm like, "How do you think of these things?" It's so funny. And yeah, anything that gets said gets
That's
repeated. So
amazing. I can
it's
totally
cute.
tell you're both teachers, and Christine, I don't know how you do it as a mother too. For years, I've wondered how all of you could do it because I come home and take a nap for 4 hours after teaching.
Yes, so that was honestly a big factor in stepping back. I think, yeah, I mean, yeah,
Family first, right?
coming back, kind of coming back to your question, I knew I was going to need some time to obviously just adjust to being a new mom, but you don't know until just like teaching, you don't know until you run a classroom what it's like when my first baby came, I was like, how am I going to have the energy to do this and this? And we know so many excellent teachers that do it and figure it out. And I think it was probably just a mix of that, the state of the world at the time, and the thought of, I guess, returning to the current position I was in. I was just like, I was not born to be a teacher. I don't think I kind of came to that later. And I'm so glad I did, but I was like, I can figure something else out. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'll land on my feet. I'll figure it out. And Georgia and I were reflecting on this recently, that both of our parents are entrepreneurs. And we wonder if that's why we're just like, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Like, we won't fail. We'll do it. Like, if we have to work 4 different jobs, we'll figure it out, because that's what we want to do. And maybe it's because we had that modeled growing up. I don't know, but I've been thinking a lot about that recently. Like,
So both of you,
why?
did you both teach together at the same school?
No.
No.
No, but you're both from Boston. Did you become friends before teaching, and how did that work?
Yes. We became friends in college.
Yeah.
That's where we met. Yeah.
Roommates.
So,
Yeah.
yep, we were roommates in college.
Okay, that's cool.
Um,
And Georgia,
yeah.
did you get Christine into teaching, or did Christine get you into teaching? I can't remember your story. Can you tell that with us for our podcast here?
So I got Christine into teaching. So, like I said, that was always my path, like born to be a teacher. I said, I guess that's a debatable phrase, but I always wanted to be a teacher. And I still consider myself a teacher, even in my current job. Like, I feel
So
like
do I.
we had a guest on our podcast who talked about thinking like a teacher. And once that's in you, I don't think it changes. And I think there's qualities teachers possess that they take with them into other careers, and it makes them really good at other jobs. But that's another story. But
Great episode.
I was a teacher. I went to school for teaching. I had just gotten my teaching job. Christine and I not only were roommates in college, but we became roommates after college. We got our first apartment together. And it was a super fun time in our lives, our first big girl apartment. And,
No run-ins with the police, though, Greg. No run-ins with the police at that apartment.
No run-ins with the police. Like, we had a lot of fun, but we escaped all run-ins with the law somehow. But yeah, I think Christine she saw me kind of thriving in this job that I worked really hard to get, and I was loving it, and I was in a grad program to get my master's, and it kind of put that little bug in her ear of like, oh my gosh, maybe I want to go to school and also become a teacher. So I found this out kind of in doing our podcast, how much I actually did inspire her, even though obviously at the time I know she was asking me questions, how do I get into this college? What should I do? What's your advice? It was cool so many things have come up when we started making the grade that we, didn't really ever talk about before. And we just had to reflect so much. So yeah, I kind of inspired her to become a teacher. And on the same note, she inspired me that it's okay to take that leap. Like, if you want to leave the classroom, like, you're gonna be okay. Kind of what she was just saying a minute ago.
Yeah. So Christine, she's led you into this. She totally opened up the floor for you. Can you tell our listeners, can you tell us what is Making the Grade all about? Can you tell us about your podcast? Because I think it has a lot to do with the teachers overseas, because in the end, all of us are teaching. That's our career. Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, so it's a place for current, former, thinking about becoming a teacher. It's a place for everyone in the education world, essentially. We toyed with the idea of, do we just focus on one group of people? And it's like, no, because that's not really even who we are. I'm still teaching and working with teachers. So yeah, it's a place for all educators to talk about how they got there, what their story is, and just kind of be able to resonate with each other. We found that from the start, even before we, a lot went into this. I think you've learned by now, we're planners. We weren't just like your first episode where you get on and you're like, is this going to be our intro? Yeah, this is cool. I wish, but that's not us. So this took us years in the making, really. We were, thinking about, we should start like a blog or a collection with all of our crazy teaching stories, or just always this idea of, we share this passion, and so do a lot of other people. How do we connect with people about it? And we just kept coming back to this authentic idea, I guess, of like, everyone shares a why, what got you into this, what is keeping you here, and if not, what has led you elsewhere. What does that look like? And it's just kind of, I don't know, genuine curiosity. We like to ask a lot of questions. We're very curious. We like to, yeah, dig into things a little bit more than the average person, I would say. So yeah, I think just our natural curiosity and our love of sharing, I guess, what we're doing now and how it's different, but it's really not that unique. It's just hearing everyone's stories, I think, can only help everyone.
Georgia, what about making the grade? Can you explain that a little bit, how you came up with the title and what you guys actually nail on that?
Definitely. It's funny because we spent a lot of time deciding what do we want to name our podcast because, we wanted it to be a place for teachers to come and listen, feel inspired, feel empowered, feel validated, and have an opportunity to share their stories. To make the grade means to meet success, to meet a standard. And one, we feel that teachers are often expected to meet a lot of standards that are unrealistic. And it's leading to a lot of teachers leaving the classroom. It's leading to a lot of unhappiness and burnout, not only in the classroom, but it's leading teachers to have less joy outside of the classroom because you're exhausted, you're tired, you know, whatever it might be. We wanted to explore that. What are these metrics of success in the modern day classroom, and why is it leading so many teachers to feel unsuccessful and to feel burnt out? How can we explore that? How can we fix it? The other piece of it is, as you evolve and change, your definition of success as an individual changes. For me, I think that played a large role in why I left the classroom, because my definition of success wouldn't allow me to be in a classroom every day, because I knew I wanted to be traveling the US and having more freedom and exploring my business more. So yeah, people's definition of success changes and their definition of happiness changes, and that's okay. And we want a place to show people that it's okay to change, and it's okay to define success in any way that feels good to you. So that's kind of why we settled on that name, Making the Grade. We want
Should
our
have seen the
show to be a
list,
place.
the other ones.
Yeah, we
We
had a
should
list
share
of
that
names.
sometime.
We should, but this is the one that resonated the most because we're like, okay, our podcast is about success and what it means to you. It's been really empowering and interesting to ask our guests, what did success mean to you when you started teaching, and what does it mean to you now? We've seen so many parallels and in people's responses, and it's really cool to hear the stories and to see how people put themselves first and make their definition of success more about like intrinsically versus external circumstances. So in a nutshell.
That's exactly why I wanted you guys on the show, because when I came on as a guest, I really had to think about that one question, because I had a feeling it's not just called Making the Grade. It is about self-evaluation. It's not about how somebody else thinks that you're succeeding. It's about how do you feel at the end of the day. And what's interesting and what's difficult is that now you see this melding of happiness and success is part of your success. And I think you're going to hear a lot about that from teachers. Like, how are they weaving in happiness in life, happiness and everything else along with their job? It's not just like my fourth grade teacher, Miss Kotz, who taught for 40 years and then retired. She had the same birthday as me, by the way. But she retired that year that I graduated from fourth grade. And she was just in it, and that was what it was. It was her life, and she enjoyed it. But that was in the D's, I think it was the 70s. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm only 25. But that's what it was like back then. Now it has to do with measuring happiness and are you in the right place teaching as well as your success. So I remember being on your show, and it was a difficult, it's a very thought-provoking show if you just take that title and think about it for yourself. and then you hear about the other guests and from you guys too, from your first couple episodes where you interview each other and you talk about your own successes and stuff and making the grade. I loved that. And I hope that all of our guests listen to it. It's Making the Grade is the name of the podcast, right? And Christine and Georgia are here with us right now, traveling around the U.S. Georgia is in a trailer, right? And Christine is sitting at home. How many episodes do you guys do? You do once every 2 weeks or so you publish?
We do. Yep. We have a whole process now. Like Christine said, we are planners. We are, we want everything to be perfect, but we have let loose a lot. Because we want our show to be organic and free flowing and fun. We don't want it to be too rigid, but in terms of getting everything how we want it to be, we need to do it every 2 weeks to get it all set up how we want it. We got a website and a blog and social media, and Christine edits all the episodes. So we each have our own roles in getting our episodes launched, and we would
Georgia's
love
content
to do
queen.
it. We would love to do it every week. Maybe we'll get there, especially because we have so many wonderful teachers wanting to be on our show, and we haven't even launched your episode, Greg, yet, but we will soon.
We have like 6.
Well, you
we have to
bank them
launch
like we
still.
do. We bank a
Yeah.
couple, and
So if we could do it every week, we would love that because we'd
Yeah.
be sharing stories more often. But right now, our capability is every 2 weeks.
So listeners, if you want to hear Greg the Single Guy on another podcast, which you probably don't need to hear me anymore, just think in 2025 when it's finally released and they say, well, let's finally put his out there.
It's not going to be that long. It might even be, I think it'll be, so we're launching one this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Today is May 15th.
There's a method to our madness, Greg.
There is.
We're trying to do current teacher, former teacher, current
I
teacher.
understand. Yeah. You have a plan for it. And the thing is that people don't know about podcasting is that we do want to bank a couple in case we run up into a publishing time and we don't have one prepared, or we're not waiting to do one in order to make a publishing time, right? I would imagine you're doing the same thing. We don't want to leave anybody hanging. It's for our listeners. We want to publish every 2 weeks, so we bank a couple in case we start getting closer to like, oh, we need one for next week.
And now that I think about it, I think that your episode is probably going to be launched right around your birthday, which is pretty exciting.
Well, it is going to be the greatest episode in your history. I wait till your listeners to shoot right up there. I mean, wow.
We'll send you the stats.
Whatever.
Yeah, actually, probably the day before. Maybe we'll be right on schedule the day before.
We'll take a moment's break now to remind you how to reach out to us. Of course, you can address any negative comments to Kent, the cat guy. We do love to hear from you. If you're out on Facebook, we don't do that, but our handle on both Instagram and Twitter are at ITPExpats with an S, ITPEXPATS. As a handle, if you want to, you can send us an old email at internationalteacherpodcast@gmail.com, or you can visit us at our new website at www.itpexpat.com, www.itpexpat.com. Well, back to the show. There's one thing about your podcast that's always fun to listen to, and I want to see if you could do one off the cuff. How about your this or that?
Ooh, yes. We
All
do
right.
love that. We do it every episode. We do a this or that with our guests where we give them two choices, and we're like, all right, which one would you rather?
Can we do a teaching one and a traveling one then?
Okay, perfect. You want me to ask it or you're going to ask us?
Either one of you can ask. I'm leaving this up to you. See how good you guys are at this. I'll answer, of course, but you can each do one.
Okay.
Georgia, do you want the travel one? And Christine, you want the teacher one? Or do you want to?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
Christine, you're training
fair.
teachers
That's fair.
right now. And Georgia, you're in the middle of a super travel right now. How many states have you had, Georgia?
I know. Oh my gosh, how many states have we been to? We've been to, I don't know. I would say 10 states. So, I mean, like in my whole life, I've been to more than 10 states, but on this current
No, on this trip.
yeah, I think on
Yeah.
this trip, we've been to probably 10 states.
We'll say 20 to make it more exciting. Okay. So
Yeah,
20
at
we're,
least
states.
we're
10.
trying to we're trying to spend time in each state to like, actually, I mean, if you want to give me a second, I'll pull it up. I keep track of where
See,
we've gone
see what
to.
I'm doing here, listeners, is I'm giving them time to think while I go back and forth and chat a little bit, right? Because Georgia's trying, she and her husband and her dog are trying to be travelers, not tourists, to quote Anthony Bourdain. And
Hmm.
Christine has just about got her question for teachers out there listening. So
Oh,
it's a
I got
this
him.
or
I got him. I
that.
could do a regular
Go for it.
this or that before we do the teacher one.
Oh, do whatever
Um,
you want. It's your show.
okay, let's see. Okay, for a teacher, what about would you rather grade report cards, do all the grading for report cards and term ending, or make sub plans for being out?
Oh, dude.
I can tell by the look on your face.
Yeah, I would rather do sub plans because I can be more thorough with those and I enjoy it. I don't always like to have to peg a student with a grade.
Okay,
And
makes
ours
sense.
involve a lot of comments anyway, so it takes so long to do comments, like,
Uh-huh.
right? And they're not just a letter grade, but they're comments that are in there, right?
Interesting perspective. I thought for sure that I was going to say grades, but when you put it that way, I don't know. Some plans get so involved because I'm so particular, but
Georgia,
I
what
get
of it,
it.
this or that?
We've done, yeah. I feel like I go back and forth on this one. I'm going with sub plans today. Yeah, I will say my last year of teaching, I took a lot of my sick days because I needed them for my mental health and I just needed them. And we can go into that. I could talk all day about that. But at first, I would be reluctant to take a sick day because of writing the sub plans. But
Right.
after a while, it was just kind of like,
It's
I
overwhelming.
gotta just
Yeah.
let this go, and I can't be there today. So here's the sub
Work-life
plan.
balance. All right,
Yeah.
what's your this or that then?
If you could go on a vacation tomorrow, would you choose like a relaxing vacation where you're going to just sit by the beach and read a book and do nothing, or a vacation where you're going to go, oh, we want to see all these, touristy spots and try out all these new restaurants and be exploring every day? Which would you choose if you were going tomorrow?
Oh, that's a good question. I love that this or that. I want to take them both. No, I'm up for the travel one where I have to hit a whole bunch of stops, see a bunch of things, and do the Euro Pass or something like that, or see a lot of little cities. I haven't done that in a while, and I do tend to take the one vacation, which is relaxing and have a small little epicenter and gradually go around there, but relax and be a
Hmm.
traveler, not a tourist. But I am up for a touristy one pretty soon. How about you, Christine?
I have two children under 3,
No
so
kids, no kids,
I'm
vacation without
taking
them.
the. No, I mean that's influencing my decision. So I just
Oh,
want to sit as much as possible. But any other stage of life, I would 100% explore. Like our honeymoon, we went all around Europe and did like all the museum, like everything. So yeah, I would.
spoken
Right
like
now,
a
I would
mother of
say
two.
I
Yeah.
want to sit on a beach with a drink and not make any snacks. That's
I'll
my.
come babysit for you and we'll have someone else, with me because you don't know me that well. But yes, that's a great idea. Just relax and read a book, right?
Totally.
See, I love this game, and we haven't got something on our podcast like that. But ours is police stories, and we don't have to share. I didn't even prepare you guys for that. So I like your theme that you have going with your podcast because then people can look forward to it and think about, I'm ready for some this or that. But I love the way that it affects every teacher, and every one of your guests is going to have those kinds of, this or that, right?
It's fun. It
Uh,
gets you thinking.
yeah. Do I get one now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have to think about the U.S., so I'm going to say over or under.
What do
Toilet
you
paper, is it over or is it
Oh,
under?
over. Over.
It
over?
has to be over,
Over,
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
We all three agree?
Of
Oh,
Yes.
course.
fantastic.
Anyone who
All
thinks
right.
otherwise is like insane. So
Exactly, because if it's under, it keeps rolling, right?
it's
It
just
keeps
Yeah.
rolling.
True.
no way.
Unless you have a cat, it's
That's too
both.
funny.
All right, and then I have one more this or that, and this is my theme here about I love music. So it's either Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin or Hotel California by the Eagles?
Led
This or that?
Zeppelin all the way.
What'd you say? Led
Zeppelin for
Zeppelin?
Christine. Yep, she
Yeah, Led
said
Zeppelin.
Zeppelin.
I was a big Zeppelin fan in high school.
I love Stairway to Heaven. I love that song. So I'm going with that.
All right,
Yeah.
sounds
But
good.
well,
I'm
now
Hotel
I actually
California.
really love Hotel California too. I don't know. I don't know. That's a hard
I'll
one,
wait for
Greg.
your answer. There's no riding the fence. It's a this or that. There's no riding the fence, right, Christine?
It's
My
true.
my
You're
gut instinct was Stairway to Heaven, so
Got it. Okay.
that
So
was my gut.
my question is, are you guys going to go back into teaching? Because Christine, you're not even out of teaching. You're teaching up and coming teachers to be, right? And Georgia, you're still
yeah.
traveling around trying to find out what you want to do and you're entrepreneuring. So what do you think? I'll hit Christine first. What do you think?
It's a very good question. I was at a wedding this weekend and I was talking to a teacher about this, a teacher who's taking a year-long leave. And they asked me if I would go back. And I'm not opposed to it. I think it would need to be the right scenario. And I think I know now what I love to do. And so for me, I think the biggest thing, and I've thought a lot about this since we started our podcast, and we've been reflecting so much, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? So the biggest thing for me is the flexibility piece. So I can do what I want now. I say yes to things that I want to do, and I pass on things that I don't. I'm able to negotiate a rate now. I've never done that before, and I work at times that work best for me and my family, and I take time off when I want to. So it's like, what is going to give me that flexibility? I don't know. I don't know. It would have to be the right scenario. I'm not opposed to it, but
Okay, and that's fair enough. And let me hit you a little bit more here before I go to Georgia. But Christine, you're teaching. Did I get you right? You're teaching pre-service teachers right now, right?
yep. Yeah. So I work with them mostly in some in one-on-one sessions, some in a class format. So it's per semester. My schedule changes per the semester is an easy way to look at it.
I hear such bad news from the States, like everything's down about teaching and
Yeah.
people are leaving it. Are these guys excited?
They are. They are excited, but I think they're going in a little more eyes open than we probably did. And I am seeing a lot of change. So I'll see students start and then switch, or like, oh, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, which is good too to figure that out in the middle of the program. Yeah, no, I think I'm seeing a lot of I'm seeing a lot of teachers that are going in with eyes open, I guess is the
And are
best
you
way to
focusing on spec ed with them, or is that what you're doing?
it mostly focused on the pre-teaching stuff. So their portfolio, their state boards, their evidence, student teaching. That's mostly the focus that I'm in right now. Yeah.
Excellent. I love it. I applaud that. And part of me wants to do that like after I'm done, maybe, or if I fell in love and got married and she wanted to move back to the States or move to another country, back to Australia or wherever, that I would go into a university and try and prepare people for overseas teaching. And that's just my passion, but to prepare them for teaching. I mean, you can't just give them a Harry Wong book and say, you're ready. Right? There's so many things to learn about teaching. If you ever listen to the podcast Teaching 101, it's a great podcast that's out there
So
about, pre-service teachers getting ready. And I went on there and talked to, I don't know, a couple hundred years ago about international, trying to get people interested in that because it's such a secret, right? Georgia, I know you're going to be teaching overseas at some point, and you're in a trailer right now in Vegas. So I'm guessing that you're at some point going to want to go back because you said you are a teacher at heart.
So also, I counted. We've been to 16 states on this trip.
Oh, you did
16.
count.
But
See?
I thought it was more than 10.
I thought
which
so
is
too.
That's amazing.
but it's been so fun living this way. We have our tiny home on wheels, so we feel at home, but also we're able to see all these new places. And every day I feel grateful that I took that leap at the end of last year and said, I'm quitting. Like, I can't do this next year. We want to travel, and I know that I can't do the traveling I want to do if I'm in a classroom. So that was a scary decision, but I'm grateful I listened to my gut and I did it. You know, my personal business has expanded so much since I made that space for it because, you know, when you're in a classroom all day and even if you're hustling at night on your side business, it's hard to have space for both. And so right now I'm loving being able to have this flexibility and work remotely, work for myself, be creative. And not only that, but I do still find myself using my teacher skills because even when I'm building a website or creating content for somebody, I teach them about it. You know, I'm like, here's your website and here's a tutorial of how it works. And let's hop
It
on a call
does.
and I'll show you how to do X, Y, and Z. And this is how you upload your blog. And this is how you use this part. And so I,
Teaches you how to Instagram through
it's,
like little video
yeah, I have
chats.
little guides. And so it's cool to be able to use those teacher skills in what I'm doing now. And so I think I haven't fully lost that feeling, which is good, which makes me feel like, okay, I'm still holding on to that teacher piece a bit, just in a different way. And I think that if I were to ever consider going back into the classroom, like first of all, I don't see myself wanting to stop what I'm doing right now anytime soon. But if the stars aligned and I was maybe able to do both, I don't know if I'd want to be heading a classroom, like being the lead teacher. I could maybe see myself more so being a coach for the teachers. Where I worked,
Same.
we had early childhood coaches who would come in and, you know, help us with setting up our classroom and, you know, just doing little activities with kids. And for the new teachers and the seasoned teachers, just having a coach is so helpful. And so I could see myself doing more of a role like that with the early childhood teachers and not only helping them in their classroom, but helping them to put themselves first and measure success with their own ruler, to use a making the grade quote. So I could see myself doing more so something like that.
I think you are both making the grade in your post teaching, like post official teaching in a school setting. I think you're both doing a great job with that. I don't want to end this, but you told me that there is a time limit here. I need to call it to an end. I'm going to give you each one final thought, and then I'll wrap it up for our listening audience. We will post everything underneath in the notes, but one final thought about what's next or whatever you'd like to say, girls, ladies.
I guess I'll just leave everyone with like advice that I try to follow every day. It's just to make space for yourself every day because it's so easy to be busy, 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 especially if you're in a classroom and you're always putting everyone else first. And, you know, there's important people in your life that you need to take care of and make a priority, but you come first. And if you don't make that space for yourself every day, even if it's just 5 minutes in the morning to just tune in to you and how you're feeling, you might miss some really important like messages from your gut that are saying like, hey, it's time for a change, or hey, like remember you were really interested in that little thing, like don't forget about it. But it's just easy to tune yourself out because you're so focused on all the external things going on. And so even though I've gotten a lot better at doing that, I still remind myself every day how important it is to do that because I don't want to miss that little nudge that says, hey, Georgia, it is time to go back into the classroom, or hey, Georgia, like it's time to expand your business, or you know, you could miss something really important if you don't take time for yourself every day. That's kind of what I'm trying to do more of and what I think everyone should try to do more of.
And Christine.
It's hard to follow. It's really good. Similar, I think. Yeah, in reflecting on that, I was just thinking back to something that I've seen come full circle with students. So being in special ed, I would see students, you know, from a really, really young age, you're trying to get them to advocate for themselves. And at the college level, see them come in and say, you know, this is who I am, this is what I need, is amazing. And it's really cool to see that come full circle. So I guess just coming back to that idea of what is it that you need, figure that out and make sure to advocate for it in any situation. Yeah, I guess that's.
I think my final thought is all of our listeners should not only follow the ITP, the International Teacher Podcast, they need to navigate over to your podcast, Making the Grade, and listen to a few episodes as a teacher. as an international teacher, as an administrator, how do you evaluate yourself and what success means to you? It does help if you look back to your first couple of years of teaching and evaluate match to what you're thinking now, and it'll make you a better teacher overall, a better person overall, right? So I love that. I encourage all of our listeners also to stop into Boston. And if Georgia's around, maybe she's traveling around the States, but Christine's there to show you the best burger place in Boston. And I will get you both on this show again and check in with you. I thank you so much for joining us, Christine in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Greg.
Thank you for having us.
This is our first time on someone else's podcast. And
Yes.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is your first one?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.